Billy Harvey.
Hey there, this is Rob Ruckus.
Hey, it's Tony from Fastball.
Hey, it's Ben McKelvey.
Hey guys, it's Matt here from the White Lakes.
What's up, everybody? Jacob from the Big News.
Hey guys, it's Nick Collins here from The Effect and Better Strangers.
Check me out at Almost Famous Magazine.
Buzzing film our clips to be dropping on Almost Famous Magazine.
Check out Almost Famous Magazine.
You can find more clips from my interview with Almost Famous Magazine.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Hey there, and welcome back to Conversations on Almost Famous Magazine. We've got a very special guest with us today, someone I've known a few years now that as life takes you, sometimes you meet people haphazardly. I met Keith Semple, who's with us today. Well, he was opening up for, I think it was Riverside here in Dallas, Texas. And I happen to be wearing a Mike and the Mechanics t-shirt. And I think that's what got the conversation started. And we can even tell that story a little bit. But Keith, welcome. It's great to have you here today to talk about the new Cyberiam album and your musical journey.
Thanks, Scott. And I got to say that I've really appreciated your support since we've met. You know, you've just been like, wow, I really enjoyed these guys live, and anything I can do to help and get your music out there to the world. And I think that's what all musicians need, right? Is that spreading the word of their music, especially if you believe in it. You believe that's all it takes is the right people to hear the music at the right time, you know?
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. And today more than ever, there are so many choices and there are so many options to consume music that getting out, meeting bands, seeing them live, and really finding ways to support them is the best thing any fan can do for an artist. And I definitely want to talk about how people can support your music in the Cyberiam as we go through our conversation today. So let's start. We're going to park the Mike and Mechanic story till the end. We'll keep people in suspense, right? The art of suspense that'll make them stick around to watch the whole video. To start the conversation today, the Cyberiam have a new album coming out. This is your third album. Have you got a copy of it there? I'd love to see it. The artwork is amazing.
Of course I do. I'm so proud of this artwork. Let me pull it up. It should focus in a second. There it goes.
I'll be honest with you. I never saw UnObtanium in my periodic table of content or periodic table of elements when I was in college.
Well, you didn't learn that? It's number 184? No. No, it definitely isn't. And it's funny because I didn't know when we came up with that was already a thing in the zeitgeist. That's actually from the movies, the Avatar movies.
Ah.
So the thing they're trying to get from the world that they're trying to, they're killing all these indigenous people is, or I should say aliens, I guess, is this, thing called UnObtanium. And I did not know that. So a lot of people have been asking since we've released this title, they've been like, oh, so you really like Avatar? Huh? And I was like, actually, no, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor that Brian heard on a podcast. And it's basically about that thing that you're always striving for in your life that you either never get, or when you do, something else just becomes the unobtainium. Maybe it's a goal with your music, or maybe it's just like a guitar you've always wanted. But once you actually get it, then instantly something else becomes that unobtainium, that thing in your life that you feel you might never reach. And that's actually what the album's all about. So it's quite funny that people are thinking it's connected to Avatar.
And I've seen those movies, but I forgot that it didn't even dawn on me that was that piece of it. Wow. I've listened to the album a couple times now, and I never put two and two together. But when you think about it, we're almost like driven always that we want this, but then once we have it, we want that. Then we want that, and it's this it's a constant struggle. It's a constant struggle and drive toward things. So that's fascinating. And in a little bit, let's play a little bit of the song for everybody and delve into that a little bit further. But I want to take a step back, right? Let's talk about your musical journey, right? How did you get into music? Did music find you? Where did you start? What has energized you? And take that to where, maybe I think 2018 was when you guys started the band, and then we'll dive into the band. But I want to learn about your musical journeys a little first.
Yeah, it's so weird because everybody that's come across my music from Prague, so they've seen me with Cyberiam and they've seen me maybe out on tour with, amazing bands like Riverside, The Pineapple Thief, Marillion. It's like they don't know my history and they just accept the music for the music, and that's kind of what I love. But they don't, and then when they find out later that I was actually, in a boy band and had all this other type of music that they, typically hate, they're like, it softens the blow because they're like, oh, but we really like Cyberium, so who cares? Whereas if they knew that going in, they would likely be like, what's this guy trying to do? And it's been amazing just how accepting prog fans have been, because they've learned this stuff later about my early career, and I think they're just like, well, that doesn't matter. The music's great. We like it. And that's, so it's weird because I started off way back at like 9 playing piano, like a lot of people do. And then I was quite good at it, to be honest. Like, I don't mean in any boastful sense, but it was something that my parents were like, oh, he's probably going to end up being some kind of concert pianist type thing. And then I picked up a guitar at 12. And am I allowed to swear on this, Scott? Should I be PG?
Say whatever you want. We've heard it all.
I was just going to say, I went, fuck that. I want to be a rock star. And that was it. And I was like, oh, I got to play guitar. And my uncle Murray, he taught me guitar then from 13 on, and he has been a musician his whole life. So, and I was lucky because I had like 2 dad role models almost. I had my dad, who was fabulous. He was always, go for it. Whatever you want to do, go for it. And then also my uncle Murray was like a second dad who would always exposed me to all these amazing bands like Wishbone Ash and and Pink Floyd and well, just everything basically that I now listen to and consider to be my musical journey. So, and I should say that prog came into my life though, when we think of prog as being real proggy stuff, was Dream Theater in 1997. I became aware of like Images and Words, and we went on this Spanish holiday, me and my friends, and we literally blasted Images and Words on repeat. I could literally play almost every instrument of every song on that album by the time 2001 came around, because I literally knew it every note up in here. That's how much I loved that album, and it affected everything going forward. I wrote a lot of prog, but all at the same time, I was still making a living as a pop, rock, and cover artist, which I still do. So there's this weird thing when people find out that I am this big prog nerd. They go, "Oh, but you play, Ed Sheeran at the weekend," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I do, and I love Ed Sheeran too, but I happen to just love prog music way, way, way more." If people wanted to hear prog in the bars, I would be in heaven,
It's interesting because in a recent conversation we had with Smiley Bernard, he talked about being open to all types of music, right? There is no right or wrong music. What resonates with you? Sometimes you're better off actually in listening to and finding a way to enjoy things that aren't in your natural realm of music that you're comfortable with, because it expands your horizon and gives you greater depth. I mean, many people don't know this, but I think it was about 6 months ago, you put out a pop song, like I'm like, wait a minute. Even I was surprised. But it allows you to explore so much musically that it brings extra depth to what you do at the core of like things like the Cyberium, right? I mean, think of all those influences.
It's funny because I've actually just released my 3rd single this year in the pop rock world. And there'd been a kind of a hiatus. So I've been writing pop music my whole life. I was lucky enough to, in my last band, I wrote 3 Billboard #1, Chicago #1 albums. They did quite well because of our sort of notoriety in this area. And it was all pop rock stuff, kind of Lifehouse, kind of slightly Bon Jovi, but more pop kind of. And I had this hiatus where I was just so concentrating on writing prog with Cyberium that I sort of looked on it as my Semple band, which is my pop rock band, was just for the business side, and Cyberium was for the creative side. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing that? I've been writing songs since 1996. Like, why am I not just still writing and putting it out there in the world? Because as you were just saying earlier before we got started there about how the market is just like, you can put a song out there in the world now, and the potential for every single human being on earth almost to hear it is, is there if it's done right, And I decided the last year, I was like, I'm just going to write all the stuff that I want to write, and whatever it comes out as, it comes out as. So that the first single was kind of had a Dua Lipa vibe, and the second single had a Imagine Dragons vibe, and the third single that just came out there this last week has a Neon Trees vibe, and the next single has a John Mayer vibe, and I've got another 3 or 4 coming out this year, and that couldn't be further than Cyberium's music. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, anybody that could play any Cyberium song could play any of those pop songs after maybe 2 listens, type of a thing. Like, we're talking musically, I'd like to think it's creative, but it's a whole other world. But I've realized I need that too. I just want to write, and I love producing. Here I'm in my studio right now, and I love it. And it doesn't matter whether it's prog or pop or whatever. I'm just going to keep doing it. So it makes me happy.
No, that's awesome. And you've had a career that's really spanned a lot of genres. Going back to that Mike and Mechanics shirt, you'd actually sang the Living Years at one point, right? Was that the story you told me?
Oh, that might be one of my best musical performance memories. So I've done let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 times I've got to do a thing called Young Voices. It's a huge concert arena thing where all the kids in the local areas in the cities will learn the set list for 3 months before we do the show. And if you imagine an arena, but the back third of the arena is a children's choir, so up to 8 to 10,000 kids all singing in 2-part harmonies at the same time, singing with you. And of course, the first year I ever did it was 21 years ago now. I sang on the first tour, and we did Mike and the Mechanics' Living Years, which, as anybody who knows the song knows, it has a children's choir in it. So it was the most perfect song. And also my voice is very similar to Carrick's in that way. It's very kind of rocky and raspy, but clear if I want it to be clear, type of a feel. And so it was like a dream come true to me to perform that live in front of literally hundreds of thousands of people over a 10 or 12 arena tour. I look back over my whole career, and that's got to be in the top 5.
See, everybody, that just shows you. Wear a band's t-shirt to another band's show, and you never know where the conversation started. Everything with Keith started just with that one band and him performing that one song. Let's fast forward a little bit and tell us the story about how you met Brian, Tommy, and Frank and became like brothers in Prague. Like, how did that happen? What brought you guys together on a common ground that way?
So it had a really nice start. Frank is, anybody that knows him knows Frank is the nicest person in the musical industry. Like, he knows everybody from J-Lo to, obviously he's good friends with Jordan from Dream Theater, and you name it, he has met them and has respect from them. They will always return his call, type of a thing. He's just a wonderful guy. And we're standing in the foyer of the Chicago Theater for my first ever Dream Theater show, right? 2016. And all I hear is this person shout, "Keith Semple!" And the place goes dead silent, right? And everybody's like, there's going to be a fight. That's everybody's first thought, right? And they sort of, I look up to see who it is, and the people around me register that that's me, and the people around him all go quiet because they see him, and he shouts, and there's a pause, and he just goes, "I want to play keyboards for you." And I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, Frank, right?" And we came over. There was Vic Salazar that runs a famous drum shop here in Chicago, and a bunch of other people. We just got chatting, and Frank was like, "I hear you do prog as well. Like, you're into prog." I was like, "Are you kidding me? That's why I'm here." And he's like, "Do you want to come and meet Jordan and the band after the show?" I'm like, "Duh." And it was incredible. So it was just it was an incredible start. And then I'd already written a whole bunch of the first album already. And then Frank came in and, did his magic on it. Do you want me to keep going about how the next part of how we
bring Brian and Frank into the
yeah, okay. So
Brian and Tommy into the conversation. Yeah,
so
for sure. How'd you all come together?
So me and Brian had or me and Frank, sorry, had written a whole bunch of songs by that point. He had sort of taken what I'd done and added the cool pianos and things, and then my guitar player at the time in Semple was playing in a like a country crossover cover band, and Tommy was drumming for them. And I started talking to Tommy. I was like, "Do you want to be part of an original project?" And that was literally it. He joined us and started. And then he said about Brian had been in his past things, other bands he'd been in and played, and thought he'd have a really good ear. And then I remember we were working on the song Juxtaposer, which is one of the first songs I wrote for Cyberiam. And I had written pretty much the whole song, but that middle part where it changes, I had this idea and it just didn't feel right. And Brian came in his first time in and goes, I was like, "Where are we at?" or whatever. And I played him the song. He's like, "Oh, I really like that." And he's like, so I was like, "I want it to break down here and I want a bass run, but I don't want it to be what we did before." And I remember him just sitting there wheedling, trying something, and it just popped right out. And I was like, "Let's put that in 7." And he was like, "Let's change that one note." And it was just like, oh my God, and he's like, I was like, "You're hired." And the rest was history. And now me and Brian work pretty much like this as kind of the runners of the band in a way. Brian has done all the graphics up until this album at least, and all the big screen stuff that goes in the back of the performances and all. He does so much work for the band. Now he's got a full-time job. It's kind of, we've had this sort of rearrange a little bit, but with my band doing so well that I might have more time, I decided I would learn how to do all this stuff, and hence the the really cool graphics on this. And we wanted to go a completely different way with this artwork to make it like really stripped down, really basic and stand out. And I just want to give props while I'm on that to my friend Kelly, who actually like took my ideas, my mock-ups, and made them like presentable, because she is like the person who can actually do graphic design and make all of what's up in here actually transpire to look as good as I want it to. I could do a pretty good mock-up, but it's not going to be the thing that's used as the final art, So I just want to put that out there while we're talking.